I interrupted you. We had just gotten into the topic of how the two platforms are very similar, but that one of the defining factors is pro-life for you, right?
I don't think they're similar. I think they both sound good. They
Yes.
sound, like this sounds nice. I could agree with a lot of these things. The biggest difference is pro-life, the
Yeah.
life issues. The Democrats are firmly for, they call it women's rights and health concerns. I think
Hmm.
it has nothing to do with health because what is an abortion? Abortion is the destruction of a child that
Mm.
hasn't been born. And so, you know, it's if you don't have that, you have nothing. If you don't
Hmm.
have life, you have nothing. So everything else, I mean, if they were both pro-life, then I would have a lot of different questions. The other
Sure.
thing that I don't really like about the Democrats is their a lot of their environmental issue or stance. I'm believe in subsidiarity and taking care of our environment and all of that. I suppose it's how it's done. And I don't think going green or like going electricity. I know in California, the governor just passed a law that said, since from 2035, no more gas powered engines.
Hmm.
And I'm thinking, are you crazy? How can you do farming? How can you do
Mm.
transportation? There's so many other things. Cars, maybe. Cars, sure. I
Yeah.
want to get a hybrid car, but they're not to the point of being fully electric. And the state of California can't even produce enough electricity to not have blackouts or brownouts right now. They've had brownouts all summer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fair point. I don't want us to we have to come back to this whole the pro-life discussion.
Okay, okay.
Um, but I don't know. I guess I interpret those sort of like X by 2035 or by 2040, by 2050. I mean, I look at them in the same way of the like Kennedy saying we're going to be on the moon within 10 years, right? And it's
Mhm.
not because anyone knew for sure that we could, but that it was a goal that we wanted to set for ourselves, right? I mean, of course, this might be different if you're applying some sort of law or something, but I don't think that there is
It is
any
a law.
applicable. I think that I would have to check, but I just know that many countries are setting their like they agree to meet some target within a certain time frame, but there's not necessarily an enforceable penalty for not meeting it, right?
Mm.
Um, but of course, when you look at actually then defining an emissions law, right, or a consumption
Mhm.
law, then you get into that. But I would think that it's not so overly optimistic that you could do farming without gas. Um, I mean, you already can do farming without people on some of the big farms, right? Like you have the
Yeah,
GPS
yeah,
guided tractors with the
yeah.
tablets, and the farmer can even just sit in there and just watch the machine work, right? Um, Not that all
Yeah.
farmers do that, and not that all farmers can afford those machines, which is another thing in and of itself. Um, but I think the environmental thing, we've had conversations about this in the past. For me, it actually does tie in a little bit to the discussion of like, value in life, right?
Mhm.
Um, but we should come back to it. So to start, because I think it's clear. How many children do you have?
We have 8 children.
Yeah, yep, and that's been a source of what, joy, frustration.
Everything. I mean,
Yeah,
to be honest, I am very, very thankful for my children and they are truly a blessing,
yeah,
but it doesn't mean it hasn't been hard. I
yeah.
mean, financially, we've always, when they were young, we did paycheck to paycheck. Um, And yet they are so much more than money. I you can't, eh, eh, and it's now, I mean, now Nicholas is going to be 21, my youngest, 21.
Mm.
And it's the best. It's the best to have adult children. And I mean, I love it. I'm having a great old time with
Wait,
them.
so are you saying that it's better to have adult children than children,
I
than
love
juvenile
every stage.
children?
I do love every stage. I love those newborn babies. There's nothing like it. But I'll tell you, I like my sleep too. And
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
sleep. I mean,
yeah.
it's always up and down. It's always up
Okay,
and down.
yeah. But so I mean that came from, I mean, your big family came from just you guys just went with it, or it also had
Openness,
something to do with your faith.
absolutely. It was always an openness to life.
Mm,
And I'll tell you, if I was not, if I wasn't open to life because of my faith,
mm,
I would probably have two. And because that's like, oh, that's what you can, people think that's what you can afford, that's what you can handle. I would have
mm,
had my career, la, 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 la. There's no comparison of those things to children. I, I'll take children any time of the day
mm,
over all that because, hey, I've got life in me. I'm still doing
mhm,
things. I
mhm,
am doing different kind of career things. The best gift those my children could have is a brother and sister,
mm.
and they are really happy with it. They cheered when I was pregnant, when they found out that I was pregnant. They were so happy. I
Yeah,
know, it's
yeah.
cool.
That's nice. So if you then put yourself in the position of someone who's arguing for more, we'll say, for deregulating abortion, right? Like what do you think their goal is? Like, because it's clear to me, just from the way that you talk, right? What your goal is with wanting to end abortion, right? But what do you
Right.
think their goal is?
Um, you mean people that are pro-abortion? Okay.
I, pro-choice, they would call it, not
I know they
pro-abortion.
would call. I know they, but see, I think absolutely. See, this is terminology. Isn't that interesting? The
Yes, yeah,
terminology they use is excellent. Choice. Everybody likes choice. I do too.
yeah, yeah.
But what is the choice?
Yes, I have to say though that if you look at what does everybody want, so
And they're
you want more babies.
no, not necessarily.
Well, okay, you want less abortions,
Yeah.
and I would argue that pro-choice people also want less abortions.
So
I think that
why
that's
are they
the
using that word choice then? Why don't they say
yeah,
uh,
because it's a
because the
result of the
issue is
choice.
abortion?
I understand why it sounds like you're hiding the dirty truth that you are pro-abortion, but to me, it's more that that a woman has options, right? That's what I interpret it as, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think the choice is made before the intimate act.
Mm,
See, that's really to me the bottom line. If you are going to have sex, a natural outcome is a child sometimes.
how do you
And
make how do you make good decisions about that?
well, right. That's exactly the question. That's the choice,
Yeah. Okay.
isn't it?
This is what I mean about that. I think that, and I would say I'm pro-choice, and uh, to me, I look at it and say the goal is or rather, I would say nobody wants more abortions. Uh, what you want is to find a way to make it such that either people are avoiding unwanted pregnancies or that they're in conditions to raise children, right? Or to give children up for adoption, right? That there's a robust system for any of that, for supporting families, for supporting adoption, right? Um,
I agree with what you're saying,
yeah.
but before any of that is what?
Yeah, making the choice to have unprotected sex, basically, right? Or
Or
no?
even protected sex. I mean, it goes,
True, true. Then that's a common point of disagreement as well, right? About sex education.
wait. A natural, men and women are made differently, and
Yeah,
the dogs. And you
this
know,
is an important point for the dog. Yeah,
I think so. And I mean, it's just the natural outcome
yeah,
when you are intimate. So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there's the choice right there.
To be intimate or not, you mean?
Yes, to be
But
intimate or not.
but part of the choice would be being informed about what does it mean to be intimate, right? Like what are the possible outcomes of being intimate?
Well,
The benefits and consequences, right?
yeah, I suppose. Yeah, absolutely.
And so then to me then that's why sometimes I see it, and I would say that others in the pro-choice who are pro-choice would say the same. Of like, so wouldn't you want to have like more sex education to inform people about this is what happens when you
That
engage in these activities. This is a way to do it safely if you're going to do it. We don't necessarily recommend it, but so on and so forth. And I feel that a lot of the Catholic specifically perspective is, let's just say don't do it, which you must know as a mother, like when you tell a kid don't do something, that doesn't necessarily work, right?
you know what? I want to talk about the beauty of what we are, male
Yeah.
and female. I mean, that's
Mm.
really should be the topic.
You mean
And
as your if you were leading a sex education class, that's
yeah,
yeah. Okay.
but
Yeah.
one other thing is, this is like a statistic, is sex education has been taught 50 years, and
Yeah.
it's all, nothing has changed. It's even gotten more promiscuous, more abortions, more, it hasn't helped, you know.
Mm.
So obviously it's the education that there's some big problem. It should not just be information, it should be
No, no, no.
fact, and it should be like put in a loving way, instead of a technical way, I suppose.
I mean, honestly, I don't even remember my sex education class, but I remember that they gave us deodorant samples, if I'm remembering correctly.
Because you're going to get
Because we
stinky,
was
huh?
talking about puberty, yes, yeah. So, but I get what you're saying, and I don't think you can isolate any of the factors, right? Because you can always make comparisons between countries and their approaches, or even states and their approaches, right?
Mhm.
And of course, there are many other factors. There's what are the parents doing, right, or what are the parents telling their children?
Yeah, of course.
What kind of friend groups do you get into? I mean,
Yeah.
those things make a huge impact in a young person's decisions. But I mean, to go back to the okay, so a woman finds herself pregnant, right? Um, and I think one of the we'll say challenging aspects there that's harder for people to understand is if a woman that was subjected to rape or whatever else, I don't know, incest or anything else that resulted in this child who is now potentially unwanted, or some risk to the mother's health. I think when you look at the abortion laws of countries in Europe in particular, I mean there are some that are much more kind of I don't want to say liberalized in the sense of liberal policies. I mean that it's less restrictive. And then there are some countries that are more specific to, first trimester uh, in
Mhm.
cases of danger to the mother's health and so on and so forth. But I
Mhm.
think the Catholic position is still that that's not okay, right?
That's right. And I'll
Yeah.
tell you why. because the mother is already a victim.
Mm,
And she, through no fault of her own, first of all, rape and incest and all those exceptions are less than 5% of abortions.
mm,
And it's probably less, but I don't know the now numbers. But a woman is a victim of a terrible crime.
mhm,
And I'll tell you from experience, when you're first pregnant, hormones are going crazy, and everything is like you can hardly think straight with when you're under stress. I mean, obviously it would be stress,
mhm,
and not good. Well, that's not the right good time to make a decision for one thing, and
mm,
then that is a child. I mean, that is a child in her if she got pregnant, and why does a child have to be killed for a crime that was inflicted upon the mother? The
mm,
mother should, you see, then the mother, they've done studies too where women that have been raped and they've had the children, or these are wide statistics. Um, they heal a whole lot better
mm,
than the woman that has had the abortion, because all of a sudden now she has done something against her very nature, and she's killed her own child.
mm. That's really interesting, and I would love to read those studies. I mean, I have to admit that. So you and I are here talking. You know, you a mother of 8, and me a father of none, and also not a woman.
No, no, no.
Um,
You are a father of one, honey.
I,
There is a
I
baby there.
there's a baby on the way.
It
And
is a
I will just
baby.
say that no, but I will just say that my responsibilities are relatively
Oh,
little at this point in time as
that's
a
true.
father,
That's
other
true.
other than making sure that Claudia feels good.
Okay.
So anyway, my point is so I don't actually know how it feels, right, and I don't actually have many people in my friend group that I don't think I can think of someone that I know for certain that has had an abortion and what it was like to go through it, or whether it was a breeze for them, or whether they regret it, or whether they think they would have done it differently.
Mhm. Mhm.
Have you interacted with people?
Mhm. Some people have not talked about it at all.
Yeah.
And I would not, I know for sure that they've had abortions, and I haven't brought it up to them, and they have not brought it up to me. I
Mm,
figure if they want to talk about it, they know how I feel, they will.
mm,
I am not going to be in their face with it. I
yeah.
know other women that um, hurt very badly from it,
Mm,
and they have gone for help. And I mean, they have not gone to help for me,
mm,
but they have gone for help through other sources.
mhm.
Or, there's a lot of help
Yeah.
places
Yeah.
because
It's
they're
just
really hurting. I mean, it's not. I don't. Man, I sure do not condemn a woman that's had abortion. I I would never. I'll tell you, it's a bad. You're in a bad spot. You know. Um,
doesn't didn't the church only recently make it possible though for it to be what's it called, the for to lift the
biblical.
ecclesiastical what's it
Yeah.
called,
Um,
um right, which made it that it was like an extraordinary sin, right,
well,
rather
it is
than
an
your
extraordinary
run of the mill,
killing of a
like
child.
even actually, but actually worse than murder itself, like murdering an adult is not what did not fall under the ecclesiastical. I'm forgetting the other word, but essentially that an ordinary pastor could
Yeah,
absolve them in a normal confession, right?
right. Which is a great thing.
Yeah, that they lifted that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, okay, so you're actually bringing up something that I think a lot of people don't understand about Catholics, and I frankly don't understand. I guess we'll just say for Christians in general, and you could also even say for almost conservatives in general, at least religious conservatives. So whether you're talking about Orthodox Jews or Muslims, right? Is like, so there are all kinds of sins, right? Like
Hmm.
ranging from white lies and so on, escalating all the way up to murder, I would say, right?
Hmm.
And um and maybe a few swear words in between, and and but there's a huge focus, it seems, on like a few hot button issues. One, I understand why pro-life, to me it makes sense. Pro-life, if you're talking about life, I mean, that's what we're all doing every day, so that's a huge thing. But like,
Hmm.
then why so much focus on homosexuals, on gay, as gay acts as a sin, in a sense that every day people are committing sins of a sexual nature, right?
Hmm.
Whether they're heterosexual or homosexual. But it seems that religious conservatives are so laser focused on gay rights, or sorry, what they would call gay sins. Like, do you have an idea why that is, or where that comes from, or do you not see that at
I
all? Yeah,
Well, I do see homosexual acts as sinful.
yeah, of
I don't
course.
see
I took
them.
that as a given. Forgive me for that. I should have,
Yeah,
but yeah.
but I also, the thing is being a Christian, you have 10 commandments.
Hmm.
Every one can be s- extremely serious. Um, stealing can be is a commandment, and we shouldn't steal.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, life is probably the biggest one. I mean, if you don't have life, come on. But
Yeah.
there are those 10. And so, and as far as the homosexual thing and the sexual sins, um, no, they are not as big as killing, I suppose. But it still is a very serious matter. And I
Mm.
suppose, from my point of view, um, if I stole, if I stole a pencil
Mm.
versus I went to the bank and stole $1 million. Well, there's a big difference there,
Mm.
and so both are sins,
Yeah.
but obviously one is a whole lot worse. Well, from my point of view, you only need to go to hell. You need one mortal sin, one really big bad sin. And if you only do it once and yet you never ask for forgiveness, well, hmm,
Yeah.
you're going to be in a hot place.
Mm.
I don't want to, I just know that with myself. That's the other thing. I can only judge myself.
Yeah.
And I have known a whole bunch of homosexual men and women, and
Mhm.
I love them. I see their acts. If they're engaging in homosexual acts, that's not good. But if I committed adultery, if I had sex with other men, that wouldn't be good either.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
see it kind of in that same category. But I'm alive,
Yeah.
so you see what I'm saying? There are
Yeah. Yeah.
different levels.
Exactly. I guess to put it another way, it's like, I don't know. You could uh, be a conservative politician and get caught you know I don't know, with
Yeah.
a mistress or something, or with some bad files on your computer and so on, and still have a career, right? But you couldn't even start your career if you were gay, right? Like you wouldn't even like have a chance, right? And
No.
it
What are you
seems to
saying?
me
That doesn't make sense. What are
that,
you
no,
saying?
I'm saying that to be that there's sort of like a there's to me it seems like there's a weighting, like there's a higher weight on the sin of homosexual nature versus the sin of
Adultery?
heterosexual nature.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I see them both pretty bad.
I would hope that you would see that, but it just seems that that's not the case, right? Within the
The big
broader
political,
conservative
yeah.
community. Yeah.
Um, I suppose, yeah. Look at our president. Trump has
Yeah.
married a bunch of times. He probably, I assume that he's probably committed adultery. I'd hate that.
That would be a safe bet. That would be a safe bet that he
Yeah.
committed adultery.
Well,
But
but I mean, he isn't there now. He isn't committing adultery now. And if there was a
yeah,
homosexual man that wasn't committing homosexual acts, I would be fine with him too.
yeah.
I'd
I
be
mean,
fine.
so
You know,
your point there is like, because if you commit adultery and recognize that it was a sin, it was a mistake, and you seek
forgiveness. Yeah.
forgiveness. Whereas if you're openly gay, but actually say that that's an okay lifestyle and continue to live a gay lifestyle, then you're not really asking for forgiveness.
Right. You're
Yeah,
not.
interesting. So you actually segued really nicely into this, which is really impossible for, I think, people on the outside to understand. So you're a Catholic who, as far as I know, really tries to live by Catholic values, right?
Mhm.
And so you find yourself voting for someone like Trump, and who you
Who's
know,
not my favorite person.
no, he's not your favorite person, and
No.
also oftentimes displays very contradictory values to, at least I would argue, to your faith. I mean, how do you deal with it, or how do you sort of
Um,
rationalize it?
well, I couldn't believe he was running in 2016. I was like,
Mm,
holy schmoly, what's going on here?
mhm.
Um, but he became the front runner, and the thing, you know, he said that he was pro-life, and he's done things for pro-life.
Mm.
Praise God for that. He is not committing adultery, or not that I know of. I mean, I guess. I
I,
mean,
I I don't know either. Yeah,
you know, but as far as like, you have to just take it for what you see and what his word is. And I'll
yeah,
tell you, right now, he has been getting slammed time and time again. And the guy is like steel. You got to give him a lot of credit for that.
yeah.
I
Okay,
don't think I can handle
I mean,
it.
resilience, certainly. I mean, I don't know why
Yeah.
anybody who over the age of 70 is interested in doing anything at all in public life, but
Yeah.
that's, I
Maybe.
mean, I'm feeling pretty tired already at my age. So, but you're right in that sense. But I mean, so I understand clearly what you're saying about you. Would you define yourself as a single issue voter?
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
that's the thing. That's the thing.
yeah.
If both parties, because in really, there's only in our country, I wish we had more choices. We do,
Mm,
but they don't have any power.
yeah.
We're just Democrat and Republican. And
Hmm.
if that was off the table, then I would look at then it would be harder because I would have to really evaluate a lot more.
So, okay. But so you find yourself as a single issue voter, and you have Trump, and he's delivered on, at
He's
least the way
delivered.
you
Yeah.
see it, on pro life things. I mean, uh, I first of all, I don't know exactly how he delivered on that. I
He
mean, I
just
would be happy.
he just did an executive order for a born alive bill. The Democrats, I think it's like 50 some times, have
Yeah.
not allowed the vote for the Born Alive Child Care Act. I mean,
Born
they've
alive is that if the child is actually born, that you can't then kill it.
right.
But isn't that already illegal?
Well, you'd think, but it happens, and we had to make a law they're now that was the whole who's back there. That was the whole thing with the governor in Virginia, where he said, well, if the woman, if the baby is born before the abortion, then we would give the baby comfort, but we would have a discussion with the mother,
Mm.
implying, then do we kill it or not?
Yeah.
That was what the bill was about.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah.
we can't fool ourselves that it's not happening. It is happening.
Yeah, and I would argue that it will happen even if you pass this bill, and that's kind of one of the big areas of disagreement within the concept of legalizing or prohibiting abortion is people say, okay, if you make it illegal, it just goes into the black market.
Yeah, that when people hear legal, they hear that it's okay. That has been what has happened.
Mm,
And if it was, abortions before 1972 were not that big of a number, and I don't know what the number is, but I
mm,
do know Dr. Nathanson, who was part of the original NARAL group, who became
mm,
pro-life, said he totally lied about the numbers,
mm,
making them like 10 times more. And now abortions are 10. I mean, there's an abortion every 90 seconds. Do you know
mm.
that? I mean, that's like unbelievable.
Isn't it?
And
It's yeah. It's like
that's really sad.
but
That's
it's like it isn't it around 18 or 19 abortions per 1,000 women or something like that. I think that's what it is in the US at least. Um,
I thought
it's
it was one in uh every I thought it was like 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 actually.
1 in 3 women.
Yeah.
Okay, we need to like
I would like to find out.
make a note
I'll
to
find out
look
about
this
that
up. That would
because
be
because
then
it's true.
my earlier statement of not knowing someone who's gone through it would not be true. Uh,
I know.
at least knowing that they had gone through it. So okay, to continue though on the topic though, when I go back to what I was saying about um, okay, how do the rest of the policies? So if this your ultimate goal, right, is not abortion law or so on. Your ultimate goal is to have less abortions, right?
Yeah,
So if you could
absolutely.
find if you
None.
could if you could find a set of policy proposals that actually would then have an impact on real life and not just get stuck in Washington, um, that would lower abortion as a consequence, you would favor that, right?
Sure. But my
And
goal
so
is no abortions.
sure,
None.
okay, what I when I look at that and I say, okay, so this is what I brought up earlier of what are you doing to provide support for children after they're born or for families who are living in marginal economic conditions, right, that are making this choice. How do you just do everything you can, so education on the front end and support once the baby's on the way,
Mhm.
like also the condition of life after that, right, of
Mhm.
availability of food, of clean water, of education opportunities, jobs, and so on. I mean, all of that in some way has to be playing into the mind of this mother that you're trying to influence, right? Who potential mother, right? Or this pregnant woman who you're trying to influence, right?
You would think, but I'll tell you, in reality, all well, just from experience, is when I'm initially pregnant, all I'm thinking about is, "Holy schmoly, how am I gonna do this?" H
But which
There's
part of
so
it,
many.
right?
Yeah, right. It is that whole picture, but there's so much stress and hormones, and you're not thinking right. And if you don't have any support, like a stable relationship, it's really tough. And so I can understand.
Yeah.
the stress and all that kind of stuff, because I felt it in a stable relationship.
So let me just, I know that I'm not supposed to state, we'll say, seem like I don't think that America is the best country in the world. But
That's okay. You can say whatever you
in
want.
Germany, where I happen to be now, there are so many things that they're doing that are so conducive to having a child. So, for
Yeah.
example, I mean, actually, I recently learned about this, and I'm not sure that I'm in favor of it. But they have a 3-day waiting period to get an abortion. By the way, so you have to go in and say, I would like to get an abortion, but then there's a 3-day waiting period, and they offer counseling if you want it, and then you
Mhm.
come back. And I know that the U.S. in certain states have tried to implement that, and
Mhm.
I know that most pro-choice people do not favor that because it's sort of becoming involved in someone's personal choice, which I can agree with. I think, but so that I think is an interesting policy piece, at least in Germany. But then everything after that, so like we have through our insurance, maternity slash paternity classes. Then we have a midwife. You're required to have a midwife, and if your insurance doesn't pay for it, then the state pays for it, and she starts meeting with you before pregnancy, and then she comes every day for the first 3 weeks to your house to teach you
After you
how to
have the
do
baby.
everything. Yeah, after you have the baby.
Mhm.
So if you don't know how to do diapers, if you don't know how to, position the baby for sleep, whatever, right? She'll help you with whatever. But she starts meeting with you before, right,
Mhm.
to help start easing those concerns. And then you receive 200 euros per month, regardless of whether you're a citizen or not,
Mhm.
for the child, Kindergeld, and it's all the way through adulthood. So not through adulthood, but to adulthood. So 200 a month, up to 4 children, and then it starts dropping off. But
Mhm.
just to help support, and then also you have a free daycare. If you're working full time, then you can bring the child to these kita, which are in every neighborhood where you have daycare. And so to me, I think like of all the things you can do to take that fear and help like calm this person's decision making process,
Mhm.
to me, all of the things I just talked about seem to, assuage whatever fear or doubts that person is having versus a law that's
Mhm.
being implemented in Washington, D.C., right? Or
Mhm.
in Berlin in this case, right? A law against
Mhm.
abortion, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like that,
Absolutely. And you know what?
yeah,
I totally agree with all of those things. I wish that our country had that. I you
so
know,
so that's
I
sorry, go
really
ahead.
agree with that
Yeah, yeah,
because to me, that's pro-woman, pro-feminist,
yeah,
pro-family.
yeah.
And, um, I'm a doula, and I
I
think that
love that word. Yeah.
yeah, isn't it? It's what it means. It's like
No, I
slave or
don't.
something like that. That's what it
Really?
means. Yeah.
Okay. I don't.
Um,
What's the origin of it? Sorry for this.
Latin,
Okay.
Latin.
Okay. Doula.
It was like Roman,
Yeah.
that
Okay.
kind of thing. Or Greek. Maybe it's not Latin. Well, whatever. But I thought it was
Another
Latin.
thing we have to. I'm gonna fact check you. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I uh, I think every woman should have a doula. I think every woman, as she walks, if she wants to have a hospital birth, she walks in the hospital. She's got her doula, her midwife, or whoever with her that whole time.
Mm,
Um, Maternity leave and paternity
yeah.
leave, whatever.
I
That's
didn't even
great.
talk about
It's
that in Germany. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know I totally agree with that, but I know in Germany their birth rate of Germans is very low, and so I'm assuming that's probably part of the reason why they're doing it. I think our country should. Well, yeah, it doesn't have to. It doesn't matter whether the population is getting old or not. I think it just is common sense to help a woman. And
Yeah.
you know what? In the past, when you had neighborhoods with families that were around, that's what happened. Moms
Yeah.
stayed with their kids. I help out my daughter, by making meals like on Sundays, have them come
Hmm.
over, like, let's make a meal together, or, what do you have? Let's do this. We help
Yeah.
out each other. And that's the kind of something that hasn't happened, or
Yeah.
has kind of gone out of the way because people have been moving around and, whatever.
Yeah.
But, but I
Absolutely.
agree.
I think you hit it on it. So, of course, in Germany's case, and of course, France as well, and basically
Oh,
most
you're, yeah.
countries, right? It's a there is a demographics angle that they're trying to address.
Hmm.
But the abortion rates are actually lower, by the way. Um, and so to your point, so you want
That's
these
great.
things, right? You want these things. And so the Republican Party is getting your vote like super easily, aren't they? Like they just have to say I'm pro-life, and they get your vote. But what are you getting from them in return? I mean, so you've got some movement on this. What is it? What
Born
was the
alive.
Born Alive? Yeah.
Right.
Um,
And
and
the Planned
and
Parenthood
right, but like, don't
defunding.
you feel like you have more power than that, and that you should be saying like, hey guys, it's not good enough, this, like, what are we doing for maternity leave? What are we doing to encourage stronger, healthier families?
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
because I think if you would look at who wants to expand these benefits, it's the Democrats. Who's blocking the expansion of these benefits? It's the Republicans. Like, who wants to expand maternity leave? I mean, if you look at the Democratic platform, they will always say something around wanting to expand maternity leave, expand insurance and so on and so forth. And who's blocking it, right? So don't you think you have some power, as a voting bloc, you know?
Well, you first have to have life. I mean,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
I get it, but I'm just saying. So I'm just saying
you're right.
I'm not saying that you should necessarily vote Democrat. I'm saying that how can you push the Republicans to adopt that part of your worldview?
Well, I can talk to him, I suppose.
Yeah.
But hey, the Republicans have been so-called pro-life on paper for
Hmm.
a lot of years. Even
Mm.
Reagan. I mean, Reagan was sort of like the ultimate pro-life person, and he really didn't do much, and the
Mm.
party didn't do much. Well, they did.
Mm.
They had the Mexico thing where you the U.S. wasn't going to give money to countries that uh, supported abortion. It wasn't
Yeah.
abortion. It's called the Mexico policy,
Okay.
and um, but Bush one and Bush two, you know,
Yeah.
they did nothing, and that makes me mad. You know,
Mm. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so
There,
you know,
there are a lot of. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
well, we've isn't that the point? We little old Maryann in the country wants to just live her life, and she wants the people that we vote for to do what they're supposed to do. And actually, maybe
Yeah.
it should be, I've gone to the little Rockland town hall meetings, and that's where I know it's hilarious, but that's where we're
Yeah.
really going to have more of a say. I'm going to have a say in my little town hall versus Washington, D.C. They're going to just say, sure, thank you very much, goodbye. But
Yeah. But there's a whole
how do we do that?
but
How
you
do
by
I?
yourself. You by yourself. Yeah, I agree. But I'm sure that there are organized Catholic political organizations.
And they
I hate
do
that I
fight
said
for
organized organizations, but there are large groups of well-funded Catholics that are influencing policy, right?
yeah,
And Christians in general, right? I
yeah,
mean,
right.
obviously the evangelicals are having a huge influence on the Republican Party.
Yeah.
as well. And so to me, like you actually, that I would say that they almost take for granted the Catholic vote, right?
Well, they
Yeah, and
take
they
for
just get to
granted
say,
the pro-life Catholic. There are
yeah,
Catholics that are pro-life, you know?
true, true, true. That's a good point. And I would even, you brought up a really interesting point about, the changing nature of communities, and how, you don't have this sort of, neighborhood that can help raise a child and everything. And part of that, I think, has to do with the way that we've structured our economy, right? Which the way that, as you said, people are moving around, so labor mobility, right?
Mhm.
The working hours, the vacation
Yeah,
benefits, insurance benefits, right? That lead to people unable to spend enough time at home, or the need to have two working people, um, uh,
right.
double income, right? In order to get by. And I don't want to just place the blame on Republicans for some of those developments, but a lot of the, we'll say, like, corporation first approach, of giving corporations more rights and giving corporations more freedom, which is, I would say, a pillar of conservative politics for at least the last couple of decades. Uh, I guess you could go all the way back to Reaganomics. That is playing a huge. It has a huge impact on that community that you were referring to, right? Um,
Yeah.
right, and so for me, like that's why I, even though I don't call myself a Democrat, I will certainly vote Democrat in this election, and of course I voted for Obama. Um, that I think we've talked about before, but I just feel like I could never vote for the Republican Party as a result of that, because I feel that it's kind of like, they kind of get this religious vote, but at the same time, like, engage in some of the most destructive activities when it comes to the community. And in the end, like, there's a big,
Well, honey, I
go
think,
ahead.
you know,
I did say that I don't blame them, that you can't place all of the blame, but go on.
Democrats, I mean, Democrats are speaking the talk and the talk, and
Mhm.
you don't think they have, like, a big say with the corporations? Come on. Then you're deceiving yourself.
No, no, but I mean, if you look at, so for example, the Supreme Court decision of Citizens United, right, which just declared that corporations are people, like
I
that
didn't know that.
was in 2010. That's the reason why corporations can put unlimited money into our elections now. And that was passed by the conservative judges on the Supreme Court. It was brought by a conservative lobby. It
Well,
was,
wait. Well, if the federal the big
yeah,
Supreme these the Supreme Court in 2010 was not conservative.
it, it
They had more
in
liberal votes then
so
than now.
the swing vote, who at
Was
the
Rob
time was Roberts, was it? So he went conservative and
he
it passed.
he is not necessarily a conservative though.
Okay, but it was brought by a conservative lobby also. And if you
Huh.
recall, Mitt Romney, when he was running against Obama, was asked what did he think about it or something, and he affirmed. He said, "Yeah, corporations are people." I think it was actually "corporations are people, pal." That's what he said in response to someone, or was it
That's
Bud?
stupid.
Whatever. And but that's like the conservative economic part of the conservative economic ideology. And so the result is that all of this corporate money is flowing into politics. I mean, it already was there anyway. But but when you look at, like, if you're pro business, right? Which party do you go to? If you're a CEO of a company, which
You
party do
go
you
to
go to?
Republican. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I agree. I am not at all saying that the Democrats are not rolling in dough or playing dirty games or at the strings, you know,
Yeah.
pulling the
Yeah.
strings
I mean,
behind the curtain sometimes. But I also want to say that it's a very clear, that's a part of the conservative, platform, right? Is liberalization of markets, of like giving corporations more freedom, lowering taxes, right? Reducing regulations on corporations. That all comes with a cost, and that cost is things like employee benefits, right? Which then affect families and then affects children.
Yeah.
That I know I'm all over the place there, but that's why
Yeah.
I
I
get
mean,
frustrated
that's
by it.
that's pretty big. It's like there's so many more
Yeah,
aspects.
no, you
Yeah,
can't isolate any variables. I
I
agree
know.
with you. Yeah,
You
yeah.
definitely understand business a lot better than I do. I mean, I mean,
Maybe
I'm kind of
not. I
like a
don't know.
Navy with business, but all I know is, I- you've got big money, and that big money also funds a lot of other things. And
Mm,
a great example is, okay, a guy that makes $100,000 a year has friends that make 10,000. One makes 50,000, one makes 10,000, one makes 20,000. They
mm,
all go out for lunch. And the one that makes the 100,000 says, "Okay, great. I'm going to
mm,
buy lunch." And all the other guys are like, "Hey, this is fantastic because I could only buy lunch once where he could buy lunch 100 times." Do you know what I'm
mm,
saying? So
mm,
there's a lot more flow of money, but greed, of
mm.
course, is in there and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know,
Yeah, yeah.
but do you know what I'm saying as far as the whole money trickling down to everyone?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that it's theoretically a nice idea, but I mean, it just doesn't play out that way. So I mean,
Sure, it does. It does.
no, but I'm just saying wealth inequality has done nothing but go up, and
Well, that could be, but wealth, everybody, you know, uh, I would, Kurt wouldn't have had a job working on the island if it wasn't
yeah,
for wealth.
yeah, yeah. No, no, you're
Oh,
right. I mean, that's true to an extent, is what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
So, in the same way that they've also done studies, right? That's a horrible thing to say. No, there was a study that was done by some scientists who basically determined that your quality of life doesn't improve over a certain income. Right? There's a diminishing
Oh, right,
marginal
right. Yeah,
utility
I've heard that.
of
Right.
income, and it's something like 70,000 or whatever per year. So that when you move from 50 to 60, that actually improves your quality of life, but from 70 to 80, it improves it less, right? And it kind
Okay.
of slopes off, right? And that your behavior changes, like how you consume changes, because once you hit a certain point, you already have like all the consumables and the house and everything that you need. And of course, there's maybe when you get to 200,000, then you buy your whatever vacation home and consume again and employ more people, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, even if you look during the crisis right now, so the coronavirus, economic effect. So they gave all these loans to companies, and with the idea of we want to stimulate the economy and keep things going and make sure that people stay employed. And there are a number of publicly listed companies that paid dividends to shareholders, like they receive this money from the taxpayers and they pay dividends to shareholders. And that's not a new thing. Also, companies that got bailouts, pay these huge bonuses to the CEO and so on. And so it's not like for every dollar you give to a
Corruption.
corporation, they make another job, and a dollar goes down to society. I mean, there's a percentage gets sucked off, with every layer, but also corporations up until the crisis have never had more cash on hand than they do now, and I think 80% of the stock market value So not the individual number of stocks, but the value of stocks is owned by 10% of Americans.
Hmm.
And so like all of this benefit that's going to corporations, funding going to corporations, organizing society around corporations, the wealth creation is being concentrated in such a small group of Americans, right?
That could
And
be, and
it's true that it creates jobs. It's true that it moves some money, but not as much as like I'm just saying, if you give $1,200 to I don't know, let's name a company, I don't know, Exxon Mobil, versus give $1,200 to someone who's living, who has a family of four and makes 30,000 a year. Which one is going to circulate in the economy, right?
right.
ExxonMobil is going to pay that out to shareholders, to then that shareholders one of the 10%, who then puts it in their trust fund. The family of 30,000 a year, that's going straight into the economy to buy food and school books or
Hmm.
whatever, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Well, by the way, Planned Parenthood, one of the Planned Parenthoods got some of that money. That
Really?
was, yeah, and then Harvard got some of the money.
Yeah, I heard about that.
What's with
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Um, that's crazy.
yeah,
But you know what that is? Greed. That's not all of what you're talking about is kind of greed. I mean, there's a whole lot of small business that have gotten some of these checks that have it's really helped.
yeah.
I suppose some of the big ones, I don't know about the big ones, and I suppose they've gotten it too, but
Yeah,
it really has helped a lot of the small businesses.
you're right.
No, I think our country, yes, we have big corporations that are huge, but we have a whole lot of little businesses all over the place that, you know, maybe we need for one corporation, we have 100, 200, 500 small businesses that maybe equal it, you
Yeah.
know, but but what is our country about? It's about all those small businesses, you
Oh,
know?
I couldn't agree more. I as you know, I got the chance to work with a lot of small businesses, and I really, I agree. If you want to talk about, creating jobs and
Yeah.
like trickle down, right? I guess if you want to call it that. I mean, as you said, you talked about subsidiarity. It's sort of like, economic subsidiarity, right?
Hmm.
So you're just closer to the heart of things, right? When you're talking about small businesses, and I agree that we should be doing everything we can to support them, rather than necessarily large corporations. Absolutely.
Hmm.
I think, to me, it just, so I just hear someone like you, and it's just hard for me to see how, like, you don't see Trump as the antithesis of all of that attitude, right? Of that worldview, I should
Oh,
say.
and so you do.
I see him as the antithesis, but it's so hard for me to understand why it doesn't, like, why it isn't harder for you, to have to vote for him.
Well, as you know, life comes first.
Yeah, yeah,
And I suppose that's really at this point is the bottom line. And you're saying that because our country does not have all those wonderful afterbirth things like the money, the paternity and fraternity, male and female leave,
yeah,
and all the education benefits and all that kind of stuff. Well, I I want to work for that too. I mean, I
yeah.
want to do. I mean, maybe that's what I should be working for. Doing something like that. I don't know, but I don't. I don't. The other party. Sometimes it is just against the other party. Hillary. I she. Uh, I I can't even hardly say it.
Okay, so then here's the challenge for you. What's one thing you like about Joe Biden?
Well, I think that will be a challenge. But I don't think he's evil. Maybe that's one thing. He's above, he's not on the evil stage.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I think Joe Biden has got the start of dementia. I really do. That's
Man, but I would say, look, I've seen him stumble through some sentences. I'm stumbling through sentences right now, but for me, it's
I
because
know.
it's almost 2 a.m. But
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, should I
no,
let you
no, no,
go?
no, no,
Oh,
no, no. I'm enjoying it. But I'm just
oh,
saying that like that. But if you want to say that Joe has dementia, then you have to also say the same about Trump because he can't put sentences together. He never has been able to. So for me, I'm not saying that I'm in love with Joe, but I do think that his platform uh, is progressive and aligns with uh, what I think should happen. But I'm more challenging you to say like, did you did you look at Joe for who Joe is, or did you look at Joe as you imagine him to be? You know?
right. Yeah, that's a good question, and I'll think about it. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. So I'll give you mine then about Trump. I like that actually he was willing to open up sort of we'll just say a disagreement with China. In a sense that I think that like we and much of the rest of the world still imagine China as some sort of underdeveloped country. And meanwhile, they've been making big moves geopolitically and economically and
mhm.
culturally, right? But we're still somehow being treated as if they needed our help, right? And not actually being treated as like co-equals, right? And someone to be taken seriously. And so Trump sort of ripped the band-aid off in a way. But what I don't like, of course, is then like it seemed that there wasn't really a plan for what to do next, and that's had a lot of, we'll say, mixed impact on, for example, farmers, right? And
Yeah, right.
so my point is my thing that I would say that I think I'm glad that Trump actually started that, and I'm hopeful then that maybe Joe Biden comes in with some solid advisors and finishes the job that Trump started of sort of rebalancing relationships with China, or relationship with China. So but I think that I wish people would do it more often of trying to like see something good about what you consider the other side, right? But one challenge that I would have for you, if I'm allowed to have one,
You are.
is if you're on the internet and you're reading something and it makes you angry. Uh, First of all, don't share it
Okay.
until you've like thought
Fact.
about it and maybe fact checked it.
Give you
Um,
3 days.
3 days exactly, 24 hours. I'd be happy to be your counselor. Um, but because they're really like it's I read somewhere recently, I think fake news travels 5 times faster than real news.
Yeah,
And
I do. There definitely have been times where I've regretted sharing some things.
mm,
Um, there are both sides. The
mm,
news. Honestly, I read a lot of different things, and so it's not. I don't just get my news source from one source. I'm like all over the place, and both liberal and the conservative stance.
mm,
Um, it's crazy, and it's how it's written, and it's the words that they use.
mm,
It's nuts, and so I don't
mm,
like that at all. But you're right.
yeah,
I think all of us really probably need to think about it more and
yeah,
not to share it because oh my goodness, what is this? And you're right.
Yeah,
I have done it. Yep.
yeah.
And I've really pissed off a bunch of people, but you know,
So you're surrounded by people who are willing to keep you in check. That's good. That's an
yeah,
important thing too, which
yeah.
I think not enough people have the support around them, and also people with slightly
Or
different opinions around them, right?
well, I have also been harassed and in a sense bullied because of it. Honestly,
Yeah, are you
whoa.
talking about your are you talking about like Thomas or Matthew like making fun of you for it? Is that what you mean by that? Or do you
That
mean
would be
like,
great. No,
okay,
I would love that. I don't mind
okay.
that. No, it's other people that have really very different viewpoints than I do,
Yeah,
and they don't attack the views, they attack me,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's I have seen that, and it's happening, and that's really wrong. And I've
I
been asking questions because I wanna know, just like you wanna know, I wanna
yeah,
know what they're thinking
yeah,
and how come they're thinking that way.
yeah. It's tough. People are able to behave very differently on the internet than they would in
Mhm,
person, right?
mhm.
Um, and
But what's good is talking, like, with you because I know you,
mm,
and I know you have totally different viewpoints as far as, like, the conservative or liberal, or if you wanna even
mm,
call it that. I hate
sure,
those
sure.
terms, but, um,
It gives us
hey,
a reference point.
yeah, but, this is a good thing versus, like, just tweeting or I hate those tweets, I don't
Yeah.
like any of that, and I know there's a lot of misinformation and
Mm.
all of that too. That's true.
Yeah, actually, they did a poll, and there's a significant portion of voters who believe Trump's Twitter more than any other news source, even Fox News.
I don't even read them,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah, but I'm happy for you, but unfortunately, the reality is it's not just a harmful. He's kind of a jerk on the internet, sort of thing. Like people are consuming and internalizing these tweets as if they are real, like it's real news or they're real, official press releases, as if it's our new, you know, public discourse, right? That's how our president speaks, right? That's being internalized by a shocking number of people,
Well, he has
which is
the right to
also.
do it, of course. You know that. I
Yeah,
mean,
I guess, but I mean, man, remember when people got upset for Obama wearing tan suits because it wasn't worthy of the office?
I don't remember that.
You don't?
Oh,
There
that's
was a thing
absurd.
about how, like, he wasn't being presidential by wearing a tan suit,
Oh, I
and now we have this. So yeah,
well, yeah, well, that's ridiculous. Can you
but
imagine?
yeah, but I'm glad we're in agreement on that. And I would just say, yeah, don't let the internet haters get you down.